So, good morning, dear students. If you are able to hear me, kindly text me. I have my earphone also with me. Let me try whether it works. Uh, Not Zoom, YouTube. Like Ambuja Vidya is connected now. Uh, Anushka, please let me know if I am audible to you. Okay, thank you, thank you. So, if you have the hard copy of the textbook with you, you can open it. Today, we are going to learn Iswaran-the Storyteller. So, if you have the book with you, you can open Iswaran-the Storyteller. It is there. It is the supplementary reader, which is called Moments. So you open Moments. The lesson name is Iswaran-the Storyteller. Okay, so dear students, let us begin. I think all have joined already. Yes, all of you have joined mostly, I suppose. Yeah. So let me begin. So here you see Ishwaran is a character, very important character in this story, who is credited to be a very prolific storyteller, right? So he, let us find out how he is able to cope up with his assistant Mahindra here. Both of them stay in a quarter issued by the government. So let's find out. One night, Mahendra woke up from his sleep and saw a dark, cloudy form. He broke out into a cold sweat. Was it a ghost? So let's find out. There is some suspense also in the story. So in the course of reading, we should be able to understand what is that all about. So here you can see this story was narrated to Ganesh by a young man, Mahindra, by name. So Mahindra is a person who is also very important because he was connected to Ishwaran in this story. So let's find out who is Mahindra and who is Ishwaran. And but at the beginning, the writer said that it was narrated to Ganesh by a young man, Mahendra by name. He was a junior supervisor in a farm. Mahendra was a junior supervisor in a farm, which offered on hire supervisors at various types of construction sites. Okay, so he was in charge of different construction sites. His name is Mahindra, and he is appointed in a farm as or in the capacity of a junior supervisor, and he was in charge of various types of construction sites, right? His company was in charge of various types of construction sites like factories, bridges, dams, and so on. Mahendra's job was to keep an eye on the activities at the work site. What was Mahendra's job? Mahendra's job was to keep an eye on the activities at the work site. He had to keep moving from place to place every now and then, as ordered by his head office. So Mahendra's job was to keep an eye on the activities at the work site, and his job was transferable. He had to keep moving from place to place every now and then, as ordered by his head office, from a coal mining area to a railway bridge construction site, from there after a few months to a chemical plant which was coming up somewhere. So, dear students, as you have seen here, Mahendra's job was not a fixed one. It was transferable. He had to keep moving from one place to another because he was at the construction. He had to be at the construction site always. Okay, therefore, sometimes in a coal mining, sometimes at a railway bridge construction site, sometimes chemical plant. So his job was transferable by nature, right? So now let's move on to the next part of the story. Okay. So Anuray, I think now it's loud and clear. I suppose my sound. Anuray, please text me so that I can understand. Uh, I think now it's okay, right? I've got to speak a bit loudly to be able to sound comfortably. I suppose to able to sound loud and clear, right? So it seems this earphone is not working. Okay, so uh, voice is low. Okay, so I'll speak loudly, don't worry. Okay, so here you see, uh, Mahendra, as I told you, dear students, Mahendra's job was to keep an eye on the activities. Okay, his job was transferable by nature. Now let's find out. He was a bachelor. We are getting personal information about Mahendra now. He was a bachelor. Mahendra was a bachelor. His needs were simple, and he was able to adjust himself to all kinds of odd conditions, whether it was an ill-equipped circuit house or a makeshift canvas tent in the middle of a stone quarry. But one asset he had was his food, Ishwaran. So Mahindra, even though his job was to keep moving from one place to another, he was very fortunate. Okay, because his cook was Ishwaran. The cook was quite attached to Mahendra and followed him uncomplainingly wherever he was posted. So his cook was Ishwaran, who was a very loyal cook and who was very much attached to the to Ishwaran. Sorry, Mahendra. Therefore, Mahendra did not have any trouble, even though he had to keep moving from one place to another. He cooked for Mahindra, washed his clothes, and chatted away with his master at night. He could weave out endless stories and anecdotes on various subjects. So, what was so special about Ishwaran? He could weave out endless stories and anecdotes on various subjects. Okay, on various subjects. Mahendra, on various subjects, he was able to weave out stories. Who was that? Who was he? He was what is it called? Ishwaran. Ishwaran was, what was so special about Ishwaran? Ishwaran was very good at weaving out stories after stories. He was very good at storytelling and anecdotes. Anecdotes means small incident. Okay, small stories for anecdotes. Okay, very small story. Okay, so now on various subjects, he was able to weave out endless stories. Interesting stories. So that is his characteristics. Okay, so is the voice okay now, dear students? Please let me know if the voice is now okay. I hope the voice is now okay. Just check out once. Hello, can you hear me, dear students? Am I audible to you right now? Okay, Jitan, thank you. So this earphone is not working actually. This default microphone is working. It seems that is why it was sounding very low. So anyway, let me continue with my story. So dear students, uh, Mahindra Mahindra's work was moving from one place to another, and he was in charge of a construction site. He was a construction in charge of a construction site. So his job was transferable from one place to another, from another one place to another, right? So, but he was very fortunate to get a very nice person, that is Iswaran, as his cook. Iswaran used to move with Mahindra wherever he went on his transfer. Wherever Mahindra went, Ishwaran was also went with him without ever complaining about the transfer. Right. So that is what the writer says. The Mahindra is very much fortunate. Why Mahindra is very much fortunate? Mahendra is very much fortunate because he got the company of Ishwaran, who was very humorous, who was very good at cooking. And what was the most interesting fact about Ishwaran? He could weave stories. Okay, he could weave endless stories, very interestingly. And not only stories, small anecdotes also, small stories of on various subjects. He was very expert in weaving out stories. So that was his asset actually. Okay, that was the asset of that cook called Ishwaran. That is why Mahindra was very much fortunate. Okay, now you see, Ishwaran also had an amazing capacity to produce vegetables and cooking ingredients seemingly out of nowhere. In the middle of a desolate landscape with no shops visible for miles around, he would miraculously conjure up the most delicious dishes made with fresh vegetables within an hour of arriving at the zinc sheet shelter at the new workplace. It means uh, Ishoran had an amazing capacity to produce vegetables and cooking ingredients. He was a very good cook at the same time. Okay, from nowhere, from out of the blue, he would miraculously conjure up the most delicious dishes. Okay, he would miraculously conjure up the most delicious dishes made with fresh vegetables within an hour. Okay, means he was very fast at cooking, and he was very good at making the dishes, right? Mahendra would be up early in the morning and leave for work after breakfast, carrying some prepared food with him. Meanwhile, Ishwaran would tidy up the shed, wash the clothes, and have a leisurely bath, pouring several buckets of water over his head, muttering a prayer all the while. It would be lunchtime by then. After eating, he would read for a while before dozing off. The book was usually some popular Tamil thriller running to hundreds of pages. Its imaginative descriptions and narrative flourishes would hold Ishwaran in thrall. Okay, so Mahendra would get up early in the morning and he would leave for the office. Okay, carrying some kind of dish that Ishwaran has prepared for him, and then in the meantime, Ishwaran would he would tidy up the shed, he would wash the clothes, all the domestic works Ishwaran will do. Okay, and then it will be lunch time. After eating, Ishwaran would read books before he dozes off. So he would normally go through Tamil thriller. So he was a voracious reader of storybooks also, right? Mm, and that is why he was able to tell good stories, because from by reading stories of different on different topics, on different subjects, he has also acquired the art of storytelling, which he used to narrate to his boss, that is Mahindra, whenever he was available in the evening with him. His own descriptions were greatly influenced by the Tamil authors that he had read. When he was narrating even the smallest of incidents, he would try to work in suspense and a surprise ending into the account. For example, instead of saying that he had come across an uprooted tree on the highway, he would say, with eyebrows suitably arched and hands held out in a dramatic gesture. Means he was a very good storyteller with lot of expression, lot of gestures. He used to narrate the story, and here is an example of given about Ishwaran's art of storytelling. See, he would say like this, like if he had come across a uprooted tree on the highway, then in which way Iswaran will narrate this to Mahindra is given here. You see here, the road was deserted. Deserted means the road was empty and I was all alone. Suddenly, I spotted something that looked like an enormous bushy beast lying sprawled across the road. I was half inclined to turn and go back. Okay, but as I came closer, I saw that it was a fallen tree with its dry branches spread out. So, dear students, you might have seen his literary skill of describing simply a uprooted tree on the highway. He could have he could have just easily said, "Okay, while going to the marketplace, I saw an uprooted tree on the highway." But no, he said in a very dramatic manner with a lot of expression and in a literary manner also. Like he said, the road was deserted and I was all alone. Suddenly I spotted something that looked like an enormous means very big, bushy beast lying sprawled across the road. I was half inclined to turn and go back, but as I came closer, I saw that it was a fallen tree with its dry branches spread out. Can you imagine? Just simple one sentence he has narrated in a very literary manner, in a very dramatic and literary manner. Mahendra would stress himself back in his canvas chair and listen to Ishwan's tales uncritically. Mahendra was so much focused on Ishwaran when he used to tell stories, right? Because Ishwaran was a very good narrator. Okay, he was a very good storyteller. That is why Mahendra would remain absolutely focused whenever like Ishwaran would narrate him the story. Now let's go ahead. The place I come from is famous for timber. Ishwaran would begin. There is a richly wooded forest all around. The logs are hauled on the lorries by elephants. They are huge, well fed beasts. When they turn wild, even the most experienced Mahout is not able to control them. After this prologue, Ishwaran would launch into an elaborate anecdote involving an elephant. Okay, and prologue means introduction. After this introduction, Ishwaran would now tell an elaborate anecdote involving an elephant. Now he would tell a story about an elephant. Now Ishwaran has already described about that uprooted tree. Okay, so now he would now describe about an elephant. Let's see how he describes about an elephant. He says, one day a tusker escaped from the timber yard and began to roam about, stumping on bushes, tearing up wild creepers, and breaking branches at will. You know, sir, how an elephant behaves when it goes mad. Ishwaran would get so caught up in the excitement of his own story. See, Ishwaran would get so caught up in the excitement of his own story that he would get up from the floor and jump about, stamping his feet in emulation of the mad elephant. Emulation means copying, okay? Like when he's describing about elephant, whenever Ishwaran is describing about elephant, he gets into the character of the elephant. He himself becomes an elephant. That is why his description becomes so interesting. Right. The elephant reached the outskirts of your town, of our town, breaking the fences down like matchsticks. He would continue. It came into the main road and smashed all the stalls selling fruits, mud pots, and clothes. People ran helter skelter. Helter skelter means here and there. People ran helter skelter in panic. Panic means in anxiety. The elephant now entered a school ground where children were playing, breaking through the brick wall. All the boys ran into the classrooms and shut the doors tight. The beast grunted and wandered about, pulling out the football goalpost, tearing down the volleyball net, kicking and flattening the drum kept for water, and uprooting the shrubs. Meanwhile, all the teachers had climbed up to the terrace of the school building. From there, they helplessly watched the depredations of the elephant. Okay, wild activity. Depredation means wild activity of the elephant. There was not a soul below on the ground. The streets were empty as if the inhabitants of the entire town had suddenly disappeared. Okay, because the elephant reached the outskirts of the town, breaking the fences, okay, and all, and then he entered in a school ground where the children were playing. Okay, he broke through the brick wall and entered the school ground. All the boys ran into the classroom, and all the teachers and everybody, students, all went up to the terrace of the school building. And because otherwise, elephant would launch an attack on them, thereby injuring them, or might be, who knows, killing them. That is why, out of fear, everybody went onto the terrace, and from there they were watching the depredations of the elephant. Okay, the wild activities of the elephant. There was not a soul below on the ground. School ground mein there was no soul. Everybody went up to the terrace. I was studying in the junior class at that time and was watching the whole drama from the rooftop. So Ishwaran said, I was watching in the junior class at that time, and from the roof, he also climbed to the rooftop, and from there he was watching the entire depredations of the elephant, entire crazy and mad activities of the elephant. I don't know what came over me suddenly. I grabbed a cane from the hands of one of the teachers and ran down the stairs and ran and into the open. And Ishwan suddenly gathered courage. She suddenly mustered courage and grabbed a cane from the hands of one of the teachers and then ran down the stairs into the open place where the elephant was there. The elephant grunted and menacingly swung a branch of a tree which it held in its trunk. It stamped its feet, kicking up a lot of mud and dust. It looked frightening, but I moved slowly towards it. Stick in hand, people were watching the scene, hypnotized from nearby housetops. The elephant looked at me, red eyed, ready to rush towards me. It lifted its trunk and trumpeted loudly. Lifted its trunk and trumpeted means made a lot of noise loudly. At that moment, I moved forward and, mustering all my force, whacked its third toenail on the quick. So he had whacked the third nail of the elephant. The beast looked stunned for a moment, then it shivered from head to foot and collapsed. And then the elephant collapsed. Might be if you hit the elephant on the toe, the elephant loses its strength. Okay, for that this reason might be the elephant collapsed. So Ishwaran showed his you know bravery. Okay, in this activity he showed his bravery, right? So at this point, Ishwaran would leave the story unfinished and get up mumbling, I will be back after lighting the gas and warming up the dinner. Mahindra, who had been listening with rapt attention means with absolute focus, okay, would be left hanging. When he returned, Ishwaran would not pick up the thread of the story right away. Mahindra, Ishwaran would not pick up the thread of the story right away. Okay, means Ishwaran would not pick up from where he immediately stopped. Okay, would not pick up the place from where he finished. Okay, or Ishwaran would not pick up the story where he finished or where he ended. No, Mahendra would have to remind him that the conclusion was pending. Then Mahendra had to remind him that conclusion was left. The conclusion of your story was left. Well, a veterinary doctor was summoned to revive the animal. Ishwaran would shrug casually. 2 days later, it was led away by its mahout to the jungle. Well, how did you manage to do it, Ishwaran? How did you bring down the beast? Beast means elephant here. It has something to do with the Japanese art, I think, sir. Karate or jitsu, it's called. I had read about it somewhere. It temporarily paralyzes the nervous system, you see. Not a day passed without Ishuran recounting some story packed with adventure, horror, and suspense. Means every day Ishuran would narrate a story to his employer, that is Mahindra, okay, which was the story of which was packed with adventure, horror, and suspense. Whether the story was a credible, whether the story was credible or not, Mahindra enjoyed listening to it because of the inimitable way in which it was told. Okay, whether the story was credible means whether it was believable or not, because some stories cannot be believed okay, so whatever might be the story, whether it is worth believing or not believing, that doesn't matter, but the way it was narrated to Mahindra was very interesting. That is why Mahindra would listen to his stories with rapt attention, with absolute focus, okay, and attention. Mahindra enjoyed listening to it because of the inimitable way. Inimitable means uh, inimitable is something which you cannot imitate or copy or follow, right? Inimitable means something that you cannot copy, something that you cannot follow or imitate, right? So the way each one told the story or narrated a story is something which is inimitable, like no one can copy or no one can follow such a beautiful method of storytelling. Ishwaran seemed to Ishwaran seemed to more than make up for the absence of a TV in Mahindra's living quarters. Mahindra's living quarter does not have a television, so Ishwaran was more than a substitute of a television for Mahindra. One morning, when Mahindra was having breakfast, Ishwaran asked, "Can I make something special for dinner tonight, sir?" After all, today is an auspicious day. According to tradition, we prepare various delicacies to feed the spirits of our ancestors today, sir. That night, Mahendra enjoyed the most delicious dinner and complimented Ishwaran on his culinary skill. Culinary means something related to kitchen, okay, something related to cooking, right? Culinary skills. He seemed very pleased, but unexpectedly launched into a most garish account involving the supernatural. Garish means very scary story. Scary ghost story Ishwaran started telling to Mahindra on that night. Okay, supernatural means which is involving spirit, that is which is a ghost story. You know, sir, this entire factory area we are occupying was once a burial ground. The entire factory area where we are staying was once upon a time a burial ground. He started. Mahendra was jerked out of the pleasant reverie he had drifted into after the satisfying meal. Okay, so Mahindra was jerked out of the pleasant reverie. Reverie means a beautiful sensation. Okay, a moment of beautiful sensation is called reverie. So Mahindra was enjoying the delicious food that Ishwaran had prepared for him. So he was just enjoying the delicious food. He was deeply in thought of this delicious food. When Mahindra interfered and brought him out of this pleasant experience. Okay, uh, I knew on the first day itself when I saw a human skull lying on the path. Mahindra also acknowledged the fact that the place where they are living at the moment was haunted by spirits. Okay, so I knew on the first day itself when I saw a human skull lying on the path. Mahindra said, "Even now I come across a number of skulls and bones." Ishwaran okay. Then Ishwaran said, "I knew on the first day I came here, I saw a human skull, and nowadays I come across a number of skulls and bones." almost regularly. Okay, that is what Ishwaran says. Okay, so Ishwaran has started telling a ghost story to his employer called Mahindra, right? To his employer called Mahindra. Okay, so dear students, let me stop here today. Okay, now those of you who are present and watching me live, uh, can you please text me P? Just text me P so that I can take your attendance. And after you text me P, you can log out, right? You just text me P and then you log out. Our lesson is over for the day, and tomorrow we shall wind up this story, right? Yes, Dhanasri, very good. Arya, Prathamesh, Bhumika, Anjali, very nice. You please text me P and then you can sign out. You can you can disperse. Yes, very good. I'll take your attendance now. Very nice. Arya Tapas. Prathamesh Wadaskar. Prathamesh. You must be here. Who is Prathamesh Wadaskar? Who is that? Your name is not there, but is it your name or your father's name? Name is name. Prathamesh Boyar is there. Prathamesh Boyar. Wadaskar is not there. Next, Bhumika. Bhumika is present. Then Anjali is present. Sarah is present. Sarah. Sarah is present. Purvesh is present. Purvesh is present. Sandhya is present. Sandhya is 9B, I think. Sandhya is present. Okay. Please mark your present and then you can disperse, dear students, right? You can mark your presence and then you can discharge. Yes, yes. Please do mark your presence and then you can disperse. You can log out. Pratistruta ninth B. Pratistruta is present, right? Pratibha, Pratistruta is yes. Pratistruta I already know. Pratibha, Anushka today is 9B. So Anushka is present. Then Ashabari is absent. Ashabari. Ashabari, where are you? आप नहीं हो इधर. Sanika. Sanika. Sapna Kumar is present. Riddhi Jungare is absent, it seems. Uh, Sarthak. Sarthak is present. Sanika, Ashabari, Padisuta, Anushka, Chaitanya, Vajpayee, Anuna. Yes, Anuna, I have given you presence. Okay, dear students, let me end the stream. Okay, let me end the stream. Thank you for your marking the presence, and we shall meet tomorrow. Okay, those who have given your presence, I shall mark them present. The rest are absent. Okay, bye bye. Take care.